Someone said she feels really bad for all those who will have to be stuck with their abusers during this period, and that hits really hard. Then a friend tagged me on this tweeted thread that had the story of a woman who abuses her man. And I know we have not spoken enough about men who abuse women, but I think we also need to highlight that women can be abusers too. Many emotional and a few physical. I once went to visit this guy I met off social media, and his girlfriend showed up in the mix. From the series of slaps she gave him, to hurling insults at him, to spilling water on his body and threatening to break his head with the tumbler, I was terrified. I'll give you this gist right after the breakup. This is signs you're an abusive woman. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Talk Time with Antonietta. Now please endeavor to turn on the notification bell so that you can get notified every time I make a post. I hope you're doing your bit to stay safe. So to the gist of the day. In 2015-2016, I decided to, visit this guy I met off social media. We had been chatting first from Instagram, then to WhatsApp for over 6 to 8 months. So I felt, yeah, what's the big deal? It's not like there was anything between us. It was nice, it was fine rather, to, go see him. And then we had an agreement that once I get to the gates, for those of you who know Zaria pretty well, quarter 3 gates, I should call him. He was a medical student staying in one of the quarters there. I got to the gate and I called him, and then a lady picked up and said she was coming to get me because he was having his bath, and it was all fine for me. So when she came while we were walking back to the apartment, she was like, so how do I know him? And then I said, yeah, off social media, we chatted a couple of times for a while now, so we felt it was time to, meet up in person. And I asked her, you? And then she didn't reply, and we kept walking. And then I pushed further. I said, are you his friend? She didn't reply. I said, oh, his sister? And she smiled and turned and said, I am not his sister. And that was the point where I knew that baby girl was in trouble. So when we got to the apartment, we sat a while, and then he just showed up, with a towel. And then he seemed pretty stunned to see both of us sitting together. Then she said, is this why you were so eager for me to go? So that you can bring this girl here? And she started to use some really derogatory terms on me. And I was like, hey, I have nothing to do with this dude. And she was like, you will stay out of this. And at that point, she gave him a couple of slaps, and I knew my place. He turns and says, you see what I have to go through every time? And he starts to, lament. And at that point, I'm not really interested in settling this couple fight. I just want to go home. And then he starts to wear his shirt and says, don't worry, I'll walk you. I'm really sorry about this. And she says, no. You don't have to go for me. I will leave the room for you guys. I will leave the room for both of you. And as she wants to step out, she takes a glass of water on the table and she splashes it on him. He doesn't say anything. He just wipes his face and continues buttoning up his shirt. And then she says, won't you do something? Do something so I can break your head. And she goes on like that. Then she storms off. And there was this awkward silence, and I said, I'd like to go now. And he says, I totally understand. He walks me out of quarter 3 gates, and he's still apologizing because I have to go where I would take a bus. And just as we're walking, a bike stops in front of us, and she comes down, walks up to him and slaps him twice in front of people. We were outside in front of Samaru Market. You don't even know what this was. And then she goes back to the bike man and they zoom off. This sister has a lot of signs that spell psycho abusive, but she probably doesn't know it. She probably thinks this is how to love, this is how to protect what is yours, this is how to show that you're a tough woman. And that's why I'm making this post, so that nobody will feign ignorance. Everyone knows when she's abusive. So you know the signs, and then you know how to start working on yourself. The first sign is that abusive women have a controlling behavior. When I first saw this, I went, because I have been accused of being controlling. And it's something I'm still trying to work on, but it's not that simple. If you're an abusive woman, you want to control where he goes, who he hangs out with, what he does with his money, what he wears, every single aspect. And then you find a way to make him pay if he goes against you. Second sign, verbal abuse. If your man has to walk on eggshells simply because you constantly criticize, debilitate, and outrightly insult him, then you're abusive. Violence. I get that we tease, but if you slap, hit, punch, kick, or physically inflict pain on your man with the intention to hurt and or punish him for whatever reason, you're abusive. Extreme jealousy. I'm not going to push this one because nobody wants nobody around her man. But how do you deal? How far can you take it? Some even extend this jealousy to family members and siblings. You instill fear in him by making threats or making him fear for his life or safety. Is he with you because he's scared to leave, scared of how you'd react, scared of what you would do to him? Unreasonable reactions. If he makes a mistake, can he approach you? Do you always blow the lights out no matter how minute the mistake is? Do you consider your reactions reasonable or otherwise? This post, of course, is to ensure that if you find yourself guilty, you can work towards being a better woman. But the message for women and men who find themselves in abusive relationships is the same. Get out.
Don't say you're hurting without the scars.